All right. Well, we are back now without
Hello.
problems.
It took
Uh,
us a while, but we made it.
yeah. Well, anything worthwhile, you have to wait for. So, you do not have to wait anymore for this show. This is Chris Frank Games, a video game podcast where Chris and Frank and I, Chris and I, and Frank and
Yeah.
I opine about the latest and greatest video game news and the latest and greatest video games that we've been playing. Very simple. My name is Chris Stotts, and then that's Frank White. Frank, how are you?
I am doing pretty good. We're almost through the pre-holiday weekend or work week.
Yes, as we record this, actually, the show is going to be out on December 21st, which is winter solstice, as far as I can recall. So that is the shortest day where the sun
Uh,
barely goes over the horizon, and then you worship the god, and it comes back up on the 25th, and you eat a
just
bunch of food.
don't screw it up, you guys.
Yeah,
We need
and,
that sun coming back.
and everyone liked that festival so much, we were like, yeah, let's just say God. Let's just say Jesus was born on the
Yeah, it's
25th.
Jesus' birthday too.
Yeah,
So
why
this
not?
is ours now.
Yep. But yeah, very exciting. I'll tell you what, the fun thing about having, I mean, I don't have any kids, but I did go Christmas shopping for my two nephews and my niece, and it is kind of fun just buying these toys. And I feel like I'm a kid at heart, and I feel like when I look at these toys, I'm like, man, would I have liked this toy when I was a
Mhm.
kid? And yeah, so I feel like I got some pretty cool toys
There is some
for the kids.
pretty advanced toy technology these days. I got my baby, uh, one of those um, like I think I'm assuming VTech or maybe Fisher Price. I don't remember what brand it is. Anyway, it's gone viral, and I bought it before it went viral. But there's it's a baby video game
Yeah,
controller.
I saw this. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's one of those things that it's in the shape of a video game controller, and it's got colors and buttons and knobs, and it makes noises. Give it to your kids. They don't want your controllers because boy, like that was not a good idea to make PS4 controllers light up because that like
Yeah.
they zero in on that.
And kids
Uh,
want to play. They're like, "Let me play." I'm like, "No, you don't know how to play. Like, let me. You're fucking up. Like, let me play."
yeah, it's just like let me just slap it a little, and so you accidentally shoot somebody in Red Dead Redemption.
Uh,
That'll make your day better. But so I got him that, and then it's wrapped up, so I can't test this out. But it's gone viral lately because the Konami code works on it. So in this controller, if you do the up, up, down, down, left, right, BA start,
it's
uh,
BA, isn't it? Two BAs? Am I wrong about that?
that's
I don't
we're
know.
getting into the weeds
I I
there. There's the
I,
simple Konami code,
I
and
do
then
not have it
there's like
memorized. I'll be honest. I do not have it
yeah.
memorized. But did you? The video I think was in Australia though, and the voice had an Australian accent. So I'll be interested to see how the American one sounds. I'm guessing they're not both Australian, right? So yeah,
Who
that.
knows? I mean, a lot like most of them just have like switches to go from English to Spanish. In my
Oh,
experience,
really? That's the thing these
yeah.
days. It's like a
Oh yeah,
sap
actually,
button.
it's not even these days. Like I've got old like kids' toys, hand-me-down things from years ago, not like fresh off the shelves stuff that has like English Spanish as a
Oh, really?
switch.
I do not
Yeah, it's good for kids to learn.
transform.
They're good at learning language at this point, so it's good
Yeah.
to expose them to
What's
much
choking
more.
hazard in Spanish?
Uh, well,
Choco.
the toy doesn't generally announce itself as a choking hazard in the audio.
The choking hazard toy. All right, and then
It's more just like Azul.
are you getting anything video game related? You already had your PS4 Pro. Anything? Are you guys getting a Switch? Are the Narfs gonna get some Switches
I
for
doubt it.
Christmas?
We'll see if there's anything
Maybe.
video game related under the tree that I don't know about, but nothing fancy, nothing
Yeah.
big.
I just get I my mom. I hate asking my parents to buy presents. Like I'm a grown ass man, but like
Mhm.
I asked my mom to always re up my PS4 Plus subscription. So that's pretty much the only thing.
That's a good one.
Um,
My mom got me like beard care stuff, so I don't know. She's trying to tell me something.
well, that's the thing. That's another thing these days, I guess, is using all these lotions and all this
Yeah,
stuff
like
and
beard
oils.
balm, and there's like three or four different tubes, and I'm like, I don't know what half these things
It's all
are.
soap, right? It's all soap
Yeah.
with different scents, pretty much. Yep. All right. Well, we will go on to the show, and not a whole lot going on. Seems like everyone's pretty much going home. I'm going to be traveling on Christmas Eve, going back home to Wisconsin. So that'll be fun. You're going to Wisconsin for
I
Christmas,
am.
right?
I'll probably be almost heading back around now.
Yep.
So I think we're doing the like it's Christmas Day. Open your presents. Let's go home. I'm sick of Grandma's house.
Yeah. Let's get out of here as soon as possible. Yeah, I'm going to. I gotta drive to Saint. Stevens Point. I'm like, dude, I don't really want to drive across the state of Wisconsin on icy roads and all this stuff,
Yeah.
and a couple of beers in
Well,
me on the way
if the
back.
weather maintains what it is, it's not gonna.
Yeah, you can tell I've
It's
been out of Wisconsin for a long ass time. I'm like, I don't want to drive in the winter.
yeah,
Sounds like shit.
it's barely winter driving right now. Like it's here in Minnesota, it's all melting.
All right, well, let's hope it
Global
stays that way,
warming.
just for the week when I'm there. All right, well, video game news. Not a whole lot going on, but here's something I felt was fairly interesting. So I guess a big thing these days is all these companies doing these year-end reviews. And I guess PlayStation, Sony did a year-end review of all the trophies. Well, I guess of all the games you played, and it kind of gives you a list of all the trophies you got and a percentage of how many people got that trophy. And I'm not sure exactly what other piece of data, but they basically found a formula. It's not that difficult to figure out, but they did a formula of and figure out how many certain games were sold.
Oh yeah, no, it wasn't. I saw this because it wasn't Sony that did it. It was just somebody took the trophy information and kind of reverse engineered it to get like real rough estimates of
or,
game sales.
or was there a leak or something? Or wasn't it something? I don't know.
No, it was just they were just taking like, all right, so the trophy that they basically, I think they're going from the percentages of like the low end, like, okay, if only 7% of the people got this and that's that many
Or
people, then
or maybe it's the first like trophies, right? Where you first start the game up or something like that.
yeah.
You get a trophy, maybe one of those. So
But no, I think they were going based off of like the real low, the real rare ones. I don't remember exactly what magic they were doing, but the problem with the whole system though is that when it gets real low to like .01, like it doesn't break it down any further than that. And with these big games, like you could be talking about a difference of millions of copies, like within that .1, if that's .11 or .19.
yeah. Well,
So I'm assuming they'd
well,
round up.
I
But
seem to recall it was a lot easier. I think we're over. I could be totally wrong, and I'm not gonna look this
yeah.
up. I'm not gonna do some research here, but I feel like it was way easier. But anyways, some eye-popping numbers for me. You get your usual like big sellers and all that stuff. But for me, what kind of shocked me was the FIFA games on PlayStation 4, like 16, 17, and 18, and all these things. Like I think it was like 27 million, 28 million, 30 million. Like that, I mean, with it, 80 million PlayStations. I mean, that's like a 50% attach ratio. I mean, that was astounding. I mean, I knew these games sold. I thought these games sold like 10 million a year. I didn't understand. I didn't think 30. I'm sorry, 30 million copies. Oh my god,
We got to
that's
account
crazy.
for all of the dedicated FIFA boxes out
Yeah.
there. Like there's a pretty big chunk of the market that's like we'll play FIFA and then maybe Spider-Man and maybe Red Dead Redemption, but like there's even an ad right now that I saw for some FIFA game where they're even making the joke about that, like the game will not go back in the box.
Oh yeah, it's always inside the
So
PlayStation.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's it's. Well, you think about it, it's like a Madden game, but soccer's way more popular
Yeah,
than American
globally.
football. So yeah, that was pretty astounding to me, eye opening. So no wonder they keep on making those games. All right. And here's another thing. No Clip, Danny Dwyer's documentary outfit, who always does good work. They did an embedded behind the scenes look at a Super Giant Games, right? That's the name of it, Supergiant Games. And it's a nice. Actually, they do a nice little background on them, and they kind of go back through some of their old games, like Bastion and what do you call it, Transistor and Byron, where they are now, and all this stuff. And yeah, they kind of document the couple of weeks before the Video Game Awards, where they show the trailer, and the alpha was about to launch. So if you're interested in video game development, really fascinating look at like what these guys were doing, and they were. What I found interesting was they everyone has to do 90 minutes of like testing, like the beginning of the week or whatever, and then they all do like feedback and all that stuff, and they just keep on iterating and all this stuff. So just yeah, really interesting stuff. Did you get a chance to check it out at all?
I have not. I'm actually not super duper interested in Hades. Like, I like Supergiant Games, mostly Transistor, but I don't know. It's like, I'll check it out down the line. But
Are you kind of over these animated, cell shaded roguelike kind of games
a
like
little
Dead Cells?
bit. Well, and I'm also just kind of like I'm a little over these no clip documentaries and like getting super excited about early access games.
Yeah.
I got too much to do that's finished.
Yeah.
I'll leave that to the younger crowd.
Frank, you don't have time to watch 40-minute YouTube documentaries? You don't got time for that?
No, I'm not going that far. It depends on if they're on some like really esoteric subject.
like all the copies of Doom from the 90s.
Yeah, I'll watch that one. All right.
Yep. All right, and then we'll just do a little preview of our end of year review game of the show next week, which we'll be doing. Of course, we'll be doing our top 3 or 5 or whatever. I always like to do top 3. I don't think I can name. I could barely name 3 games, so top 5. And then I think some of these are pretty fun categories, which I will wholeheartedly admit that I ripped off from the Player One podcast, a great video game podcast by the ex-EGM guys. But best game from another year, so that's a game that you didn't play when it first came out, and you played it. It's like, holy shit, that's pretty good. All right.
That's a good category because I mean that should be a bigger category.
Yeah, I could name like 3 of those.
Unless you're actually a games journalist, like who's sitting there and slavishly playing all of the brand new games.
Yeah. Who's like not
journalists,
18 years old
with no lives and lots of money.
Yep. Biggest disappointment should be fun. Biggest surprise, and then best game you did not play. So this is a game you did not play, but you're pretty sure it's good. Pretty sure it's a fun game.
That's another one with can't afford every system these days. So
yeah, that is the Covet Neighbor Award, right? Sure. All right, so that's all the news I had. Frank, did you have anything for us this week?
No.
All right. Really busy week. All right, so we'll take a quick break, and then maybe we can get the show under 20 minutes. We'll see about that. All right, we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right. I'm actually good. We can get back going.
Yeah, I'm fine.
All right, we're back, and we're going to be talking about the games we've been playing the past week. And Frank, why don't you go first?
Okay. Well, I have finally, after much rushing of story missions and ignoring of legendary animals to hunt, and I finally have completed Red Dead Redemption 2.
Nice. You finished the epilogue or whatever it is?
Yeah, I finished Epilogue Part 2.
Oh, Jesus. Isn't that the epilogue, Part 2?
Yeah.
What was Part 1?
You can't do that, guys.
The Part 1 was the prologue to the epilogue? I mean, what?
Yeah. Well, yeah, the epilogue basically does have a prologue because there's a whole section where it's a bunch of story missions that are very low stakes without a free roam segment in between, really. So, but yeah, pretty neat little ending, kind of like tying things a little bit together with the first game because we're skipping ahead in time, and long ass credits.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
But and long credits that you can't skip because like in between every little segment they show you like a little like what happened to this character kind
Oh
of
yeah.
catch up thing. So
It's,
you miss out on those if you just skip the credits.
I mean, it's probably like 10 minutes, right? I'm imagining maybe
Oh,
longer.
it had to be at least a half hour.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with it all, like at the end, I was like, just like, I gave my kid a bottle and I went to the bathroom.
You potty
Uh,
trained your kid like while the credits
yeah.
were rolling. Yeah.
Because there was, and interesting thing, there's a lot of like South Asian names in those credits. So
Hey, art.
clearly,
Someone's got to
Rockstar
make the
did
art.
a lot of outsourcing to
They have a,
India or
yeah,
Pakistan.
yeah, they have an office in India, right? I believe.
Yeah.
Rockstar India.
So no Indians actually in the game.
we're talking about
I guess
7-Eleven
there
or
wasn't a lot of migration from that time at that in that time and place. But I always wonder how people like that feel about like,
yeah, Indians.
yeah, I'm making an American cowboy game.
Wait.
What are you up to, Sanji? But yeah, so finished that. Finally got that off my plate. I'm sure there's tons of stuff to continue doing, but most of that I will probably just look up on YouTube videos. Uh, and So now that that's out of the way, and when I took a break at one point between that to fire up X-Men Origins Wolverine from 2009.
So is this
how's that for best game? Yeah,
is
not from this year.
yeah, is that like a side scroller or what is that? I'm trying to
It's a God of War style
Oh,
kind
okay.
of beat 'em up.
And
So
what
it's a game. I played the demo of it like way back when it was new, and like remembered it being kind of cool. And I've always just kept my eyes peeled for it at used game stores because um, it's not available on any digital storefront because it's a movie tie-in game. So I'm sure they lost the X-Men license or something. Or maybe they lost the Hugh Jackman license, but so yeah, it's a hack and slash, third person game, loosely based on the really bad movie. It seems to mostly be doing its own thing, just with Hugh Jackman's likeness and Liev Schreiber as Sabretooth. But it's a lot of fun. It's kind of easy, and it's super duper violent. I think that was the big thing that was like, I want to pick this up again because it's like the movie Logan, where it's like here's something that actually acknowledges the fact that this guy has knives on his hands. So you're dismembering people and blood spraying everywhere, and it's M-rated, and there's contextual executions all over the place. Like if you pick up a guy like right next to a spike, you'll impale him on it. With the kind of a neat twist of that the enemies can do it to you. So you can get knocked onto like impaling objects and then have to do like a little button mashing thing to pull yourself off. And there was really early on in the game, there's a Wolverine Sabretooth boss fight where you're both just like throwing each other into like electrical transformers and rebar and shit. But also like stretching the canon a bit. There's a lot of the levels like are like flashbacks to a military operation that Wolverine did pre-adamantium days in Africa, and there's a lot of like mutant fire guys. Like they're like, okay, it's X-Men, so we can just. Some of these guys have powers because they're mutants. Like, why do so many of them have the same powers? Why is there a giant lava monster? Like, what mutant is the giant lava monster? Yeah, so it gets very God of War with like giant guys that you have to like jump on and slash up and then get thrown off. But yeah, for a game from 2009, the graphics aren't too bad. The frame rate suffers a little bit, but one thing it's much more arcadey. Like if there's an object you need to pick up to solve a puzzle, it'll actually just be kind of like floating in the air and glowing for you, and so you don't get lost in the weeds like you do with the hyper detailed modern games. But the biggest thing was like, so it had a code like so I got the box and everything, and it has a little code for a classic Wolverine costume, the yellow goofy costume. And I looked at that and I was like, oh, well, this has long since been redeemed. And then I looked closer and it's a cheat code. It's like a little flyer with a cheat code
Mm.
that you can enter to get the thing. Like, and I'm like, wow, that takes me back to like before everything was like monetized. Because there's 0% chance that they would ever print off a cheat code, for you and put it in the package. Like, if even if they did something like that, they wouldn't print it out, but they would definitely like
Yeah, charge
have
you
that be like a
for that power.
pre-order, well, or like a pre-order bonus, so that's a one-time code that you redeem.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so it's weird how much gaming has changed in some ways and how little it has in others. But I'll definitely it seems to be a pretty short game. I'm blowing through it pretty fast, so we'll definitely continue on with that.
So is it just kind of mindless fun then? Kind of.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, there's a little bit of depth in like some of the unlockable moves, but it's one of those games where like the normal like standard enemies are like such little threat that like a lot of the moves are more just for like, oh yeah, I want to remember to do that because it's cool, rather than like out of necessity. I mean, there's like armored and robotic enemies and stuff that change things up, and I have a hard time with the deflect. Like you can deflect grenades at guys, and I haven't quite got the timing on that down. So I get blown up a lot. Oh yeah, and the other, it's a game that has an absolute excuse for regenerating health.
Oh yeah, it's Wolverine,
And
right?
yeah, and they actually do that pretty good. I mean, you've got a meter, you've got a health meter, and then you have your health meter and your vitals meter. So you have like how much tissue damage you've taken, and then how much organ damage you've taken, and like yeah, and they both regen. But the fun part is that you can see a lot of the damage on his like model. So if you've been hit by a couple of grenades, you'll actually like be able to see the adamantium bones and some like guts hanging out.
Wow.
And then you get to watch that kind of grow back in real time. So that's pretty fun. Like it would be really cool if they made a game like this where you didn't even need the HUD. Like you just entirely got your health status based on like how mangled he is. So guys, if you think about like I want to see the Logan, the Old Man Wolverine, make another one of these with the most recent movie. Do it.
Yep. Special request. All right. So what system was it on? Xbox.
Xbox 360, because that was the one that I could find it on. I think I guess I would have preferred to be able to get it on PS3 because I don't play that much Xbox 360 anymore, and I don't so I don't pay attention to my achievements as much as my trophies.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't think they were very different. So I just got whichever one was convenient. I saw it at the store. Like every time I go, I'm like checking out the X's and the W's because I don't know where they're gonna put it.
Yeah.
And,
So what was so I honestly don't remember this game specifically, but I mean, was it well reviewed when it came out at the time? Did it get kind of just lost in the shuffle, or is it like kind of not
yeah,
that great? Kind of.
it got decent reviews. Yeah, it just kind of didn't light the world on fire, I guess. And I think I guess there's making an M-rated, like beloved comic book character game is probably always a gamble. And I think the movie dragged it down because that was the movie where like Ryan Reynolds was Deadpool, but like not the real Deadpool, and then he was like the bad guy at the end, and they like took like he had his mouth removed, and then they gave him everyone else's powers. And that's the movie where they like Wolverine gets amnesia from an adamantium bullet in the brain, and yeah,
A little
it
dark.
was a bad movie.
Yeah. All right.
And then one last game I've been playing. It's a good thing we're not doing our best of tonight because I don't know if maybe Ace of Seafood will end up on there because I got Ace of Seafood on the
I don't know what that
place
is.
on the flash sale. Or the holiday sale, it was for cheap. So I played some Ace of Seafood tonight. It's not very good. It's Ace of Seafood is a flight simulator style game. It's very arcadey, but it has like all of the like flight simulator HUD elements, even though most of them you don't really like need. But you are fish and other sea creatures, and the gameplay loop seems to be you shoot other fish, and you have like lasers and stuff that you're shooting at each other. Like it's all they're usually like, oh, it's scales or what, these are homing scales, but it's you shooting like homing lasers and machine guns at other sea creatures. And there's like boats too, but I think they're supposed to be toy boats. Um, but when you kill a fish, you like get its DNA, and then when you get enough DNA from a certain fish, it's like added to your roster, and so you can have a school. So you control one fish, and then you have like a formation of other fish around you, and you can kind of give them orders as to like follow behind or swarm around you or try to protect you. And then you just go around and like shoot bigger and bigger things, and then claim territory. Uh, and it took me a little while to get the loop of it. Like at first, it was super easy, and then like it's not really clear where you're supposed to go. You're just kind of like wandering around, like claiming these checkpoints. And after a while, like I kind of got trapped in an area where like everything on all sides of me was like brutally difficult, and so I had to kind of retreat. I'm like, okay, where was the starting point? I'm gonna go back to that one and just try a different direction, and that seems to work out. But
Well, I have never heard of this game before, and I just looked it up.
it got a physical release.
I've
You can,
when did
from
this
limited
come?
run games.
When did this come out?
I don't know, a year or two ago.
Yeah, this basically looks like Colony Wars meets Seaman, whatever.
There you go.
Yeah, it's like a
I
space
was
shooter,
gonna
but
say like
you're a lobster basically, or a crayfish or something.
uh, Ace Fighter meets Tokyo Jungle.
But yeah, so it doesn't like really control very well. Or it's just you get stuck on the geometry or something like that. Or
No, it's fine for what it is. It's just very like obviously low budget.
yeah, well, it looks pretty cool.
I think the biggest like tell is the user interface graphics. Like it's one of those games with like no graphic design skill was involved in making the like buttons to select things from the menus. But
Yeah.
oh, it's a
Um,
courier typeface on a white square.
yeah, I think they should port it to VR. I think that game would be pretty awesome in VR. Being an aquarium,
I'm pretty sure it's available on Switch.
is it available on Switch? I don't have to check it out. I don't know. I never heard that game before. That's pretty fascinating. That's actually a really fascinating game. I've never even heard of that game before. So
Yeah, it was. When I first saw it, it was because Limited Run Games was doing a release, which I didn't buy. Because I'm not paying $30 for that. I paid $6, and
okay,
that's
there you go.
Uh,
Tetris, by the way, is $20. So there you go.
it's getting
I think $5 is my trigger point for Tetris.
Well, it's definitely gonna be like there's like a time, like if I have time versus the price going down, and like that meets somewhere. So
Yeah.
like if it gets down to $5, I'll just buy it right out, and even if I never touch it again.
Yeah.
At $20, like I need fewer games to be in my plate right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the whole like when I first saw Ace of Seafood, I was like, how is this a real game and not like one of the fake Sega CD games from that funny Twitter account?
Yeah, pretty interesting stuff. So if you haven't seen it, definitely Google it and check it out. Okay, all right, really quick. Still just kind of sticking with PUBG and Battlefield 5 really quick. They announced that there's going to be like an update to the console versions of PUBG with some quality of life and improving the frame rates, blah, blah, blah. So when you hear that, I'm like, man, dude, why should I even play this? The current version. So I've kind of held off on that a little bit. But they're actually going to make available the public test server and make the new map, this Viking winter map that's kind of been going around for a while. So that's going to be released Friday night at 9 p.m. Pacific time. So I'm going to have to get a cup of coffee and try to stay up so I can play it at that time. So that should be pretty cool to check it out. And then that's going to have some of the big updates for the console game. So I'll be able to check that out and report back maybe in a couple of weeks. So that's cool. That's going on with that. And then yeah, so just pretty much sticking with Battlefield 5 as well. And I was talking about the time to kill controversy last week. Well, it's still going on. They of course increased the time to kill because people were dying too fast. Most people think it's a netcode problem where you just seem like you die right away and you don't actually get a chance to react. So in response to that, they increased the time to kill. The hardcore community were pretty upset about it because they really enjoyed the fast gameplay and the fast killing and all that stuff. Well, it wasn't too much longer on Monday. They announced they're going to go back to the old time to kill. So it seems like these kind of guys don't know what's going on. And what it seems like is that the game is not selling quite as well as like maybe a Battlefield 1 or a Battlefront. And the higher ups are like looking at the stats and the data, and they actually kind of said this that churn of new players is like a problem for Battlefield. They actually admitted this in like a letter, and they said we're trying to figure out a way to do this and all this stuff, but this is obviously not the solution, etc. And so yeah. I think what happened is that they looked at the data of those past couple of days, or the week, where they actually had changed the time to kill to a longer time for newbies, and they're probably like, well, this actually didn't make any difference whatsoever, and we just pissed off our whole community, so let's just go back. And I've never really heard of a big first-person franchise like this changing their like time to kill like literally like 3 times in the span of like 10 days. It's kind of unprecedented. So, um, but
Just don't listen to gamers.
yeah,
Don't
I
listen to
guess.
them.
Yeah, well, don't look at the stats. Don't look at the data. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm playing right now, but also I think the time to kill thing was the fact that when you killed someone, you showed up. There was like a red dot on the radar, the enemy's radar, showing you where you killed. They fixed that, but they only were able to play that with the old time to kill for like 1 day before they changed it to the new newbie one. But now that it's been reverted back, the game is. I mean, it was fun to play. I didn't really notice that much of a difference, but it's definitely very, very, very fun to play. And the only problem is that they have these Tide of War, which is almost like a battle pass where you like, but you don't pay for anything, and you just kind of have to unlock stuff. But it's like bugged out of hell. So you have to like, for
Mhm.
example, get 200 points as an assault player against a tank. I've blown up tanks and stuff like that, but it's not giving me the points. And it's really annoying because you work to unlock like new guns and skins and all this stuff, and it's just bugged. So it's annoying. I mean, it's like it doesn't affect the gameplay, but when you're trying for that stuff and you're not getting any credit for it, it's demoralizing.
Well, I mean, that is affecting. It's not affecting the moment to moment gameplay, but you know, we have clearly said that we want, and they are giving us, these advanced meta games and stuff,
Yeah.
all this unlockable stuff. We don't actually want it, but it's like a psychological trick to make you feel like you're making progress. So
Yeah.
that's why it's everywhere.
Yep. Exactly. Just keep on unlocking that next thing on the horizon. So, all right. So not really exciting. Just playing Battlefront. I'm sorry, Battlefield, and yeah, I'm just waiting for PUBG update. So not too much. Yeah, I haven't even like touched my Switch like probably in a month. So nothing really. I'm not playing Smash. I don't play Smash. So
I need
but
to
yeah.
get the report on King K. Rule.
How good is he over? I think he's OP. I think I saw him on
Yeah,
a IGN
everyone's
video.
bitching about him. So
Well, he stole all those bananas, Frank. I mean, let's not forget that. I mean, Donkey Kong, ain't no slouch, you know. Back in the day. All
he
right.
can shoot a cannonball and then suck you into his gun. And this
Yep. OP.
shouldn't have a blunderbuss.
OP. Change the time to killing that guy, huh? How about that? How we do that? All right. Well, that'll be it. That's for the show. That's it for the show. Yep. Next week will be our end of the year review, and then after the new year, we'll be back on schedule for our regular shows. So enjoy your Christmas and all of that, and hopefully you can listen to us on your way to Grandma's house or on the plane or whatever, and hopefully we put you to sleep so that it's not too difficult.
We don't have the soothing NPR voices. I'm sorry.
Yeah, probably not.
Today on Chris Frank Games, we're talking about Spider-Man.
All right. So for Frank White, my name is Chris Stotts. It's been Chris Frank Games. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace out.
All right, bye bye.